right, let's go ahead and officially get started and let me welcome everybody. This is our stamp chat. We're featuring our YPLFs, which are our Young Philatelic Leadership Fellows. I'm Dr. Sean McMurtry. I am the Director of Education here at the Philatelic Society now. This is about month 4 for me, and I am in charge of the Young Philatelic Leaders Program. But I have not met these people. I kind of wanted to meet them with you and have this be an organic conversation so that we all can kind of learn about the program a little bit and exactly what the fellows experience in their year out in the field and honing their skills in philately and things like that. If anybody has a question, we do have the Q&A is open, so you can go ahead and submit a question. Some people submitted questions early, and I have those to share as well. And we'll go for about an hour. So we might not get to every question. Apologize for that in advance if we don't get to your question specifically. But I think this should be a great conversation, and everybody is always excited about young people in philately. Somehow that includes me. So those that don't know, I've been collecting since I was 8 years old, and I'm still considered young when it comes to a lot of our philatelists. And I am much older than these 3 people that we have with us tonight. So without further ado, I do want them to introduce themselves. So if you could each tell us who you are, what you did in the fellowship meeting, like who was your mentor, where were you, that kind of thing, and when you were a YPLF. And I'll go into more about what the program is and then questions after that. So who would like to get us started? Introduce themselves.
Guess
Yeah,
I'll
do
go.
it.
Go ahead.
You can. Okay, I'll do it. All right.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Great to see you all here tonight, virtually, of course. My name is Trevor Bills. I was a graduating class of 2023, a member of the YPLF program, but I was one of the people in the weird situation where I got started in 2019, and my YPLF year turned into YPLF 4 years because of the COVID delay. That was a weird time in our history. But we got through it, finally graduated a year ago. It was very exciting. I was the Donald and Bonnie Lee Fellow that year, and my mentor was Alex Hyman.
Thanks, Trevor. All right, Silas, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Silas Ernst. I was also in the YPLF class of 2023, but without the delay. I was the Daniel F. Kelleher Auctions Fellow, and my mentor was Richard Judge.
Hey, I'm Bethany Hunter, and I was also the class of 2023. And like Silas, I started after the COVID fiasco, and I was the American Classics Society fellow, and my mentor was Cheryl Gans.
Thanks, Bethany. So for those that don't know about the Young Leadership Fellows Program, it is a program where anybody from the age of 16 to 24 can apply, and their goal is to learn something about philately specifically in a specific area. So some of the things you might have heard of. So some people want to examine whether it's exhibiting. That's what I was looking for. So doing exhibits for stamp shows, things like that, doing philatelic research, writing papers and things like that. Could be a business, so they want to be a dealer in the future or sell stamps or just learn more about a specific area of stamps. These 3 people, I believe, all have 3 different areas that they were focused in. So, but they spend a year, they get a mentor, and that mentor helps them. And in the end, at the Great American Stamp Show, they do a presentation showing what they've learned in that time. So for like the business track, they do a business plan and share a business plan and present that, or they do an exhibit and present their exhibit at the Great American Stamp Show. So that's the program in a nutshell. Would you guys have anything else to add to that?
That is a good nutshell of what we do. And we'll get to talk about kind of the expanded version of what we do as we go through the interview. But that's a great summary.
Excellent. Thank you. I mean, I think that's pretty good since I haven't been here that long to condense it down. I'm pretty proud of that. So For our next question, this is what everybody wants to know. So what do you collect and why did you get started? So whether it was a person that got you started or whatever, like how did you get started and then what did you end up collecting or what is your current collection? Silas, this time we'll just start with you. I'll just pick you so you don't have to like fight over it.
Okay. I got started when I was 8. It was either there were a couple different things kind of got the bug going. One was a Utz potato chip can full of postage stamps I found in my grandma's attic. And the other thing was I saw an advertisement in the local paper for the St. Louis Stamp Expo. So I bugged my dad. I was like, hey, can we go to that? And we did. And I went to the youth room and did all all the kids stuff. And it kind of went downhill from there. And currently I collect US stamps. I'm working on the classics. I collect stamps of East Germany. And kind of the thing I've been working on recently is postal history and ephemera related to the development of like radio and electronics. So that's me.
So what I hear is like you're kind of combining two hobbies that you have.
Yes, yes.
I think that I think that's really cool. I think that's, you know, a lot of people can get into stamp collecting through other hobbies. It sounds like you kind of did the reverse.
Yeah, I don't it all kind of I was kind of getting interested in electronics and stamps and everything at the same time. So eventually they kind of merged.
I think that's great. That's awesome. Bethany, how about you?
I started when I was like 5 or 6. My older siblings started collecting all the stamps from the mail, and one by one, we all got interested and started fighting over the stamps. So it became a thing. We would collect all the stamps from the week and then divvy it up. We'd all pick our favorite. And so for a while, it was just like forever stamps that we were getting that I would collect. But my aunt one time sent me a few stamps from what's the country? Myanmar, from Myanmar, which really interested me. Like up till then, I didn't know much about like foreign stamps at all. So after that, I focused on foreign stamps from any nation. But lately, I've focused mostly on war era stamps, like World War II and like Korean and Vietnam era. Um, Specifically stamps that are still on the cover, so that I can like use that cover to learn more about the history of the war, like how everything happened and how it affected people's personal lives.
So is that also like another interest for you? Like, are you a
Yeah.
like history person?
Yeah, especially war history.
I see how your face lit up when you're like, yes, absolutely, I love that. So that's great. So I'm just like sensing a theme. Like it's one of those things like you get interested in something and stamps tell part of that story. They're helping
Yeah.
to like connect those things for people.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks. Trevor, how about you?
Awesome. I got started also when I was about 5 or 6. My dad is a stamp collector as well, and so he kind of got me interested in it, showing me all the different stamps he had on his albums and everything. And then around Christmas time, when it was time to send out Christmas cards, I got roped into service by my mom, and I was the designated stamp placer. So I got to put a stamp on every single Christmas card envelope that we mailed out, and I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. Uh, and I still do that because I think it's the coolest thing ever. So, so that's that. But I primarily collect United States stamps, and I also really like fun postmarks. So the cool pictorials they come up with for various events, those are really neat, and I like those a lot.
Now, do you have like a history thing with you two, just because you like the postmarks, or just it's a design kind of thing for you?
Design kind of thing. I was on the design track actually for postmark design, cachet design. So that's my thing. But it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. It's really cool though that like, you know, people can come at those things from like different angles. So it's not necessarily a history thing. It can be you just like the design, you like the story. I just love to hear like the three of you will represent like very different places in philately for your like collecting interests. So I think that's great. You are a good representation, I feel. So let's dive into the YPLF experience now. So talk to me about like what you did, what your focus was. So Trevor, you sort of started to talk about this a little bit. You were on like the design track. So let's start with you. Like what was your experience? What did you do for the year? Well, for you, the 4 years.
Yeah, the 4 years, it was really interesting. So Omaha 2019 Stamp Show is where we got started, and we were kind of working through the YPLF assignments and getting to know our mentors and everything. And we were getting ready to go for WestPAX. And we had all just booked our flights, ready to go to WestPAX. And we were kind of counting down the days for that. And then the world shut down. And I remember we were thinking, surely this is going to be over within a couple of weeks, and then we'll be able to go and everything will be cool. And then they canceled the stamp show, and we found out that things were not, in fact, going to be cool very quickly. And so as a result of that, it kind of was put on a hold for a little bit. And when it was time to pick things back up in 2022, at that point, I was 3 years older, and so I kind of had developed more experience and everything, and was ready to do better work and all that. And so we just started over for both of us. The other YPLF fellow that year is Victor. He's really great too. And we started over and worked on our project, and I did some great cachet designs, and I haven't gotten any postmark designs done yet, but it's a work in progress.
Awesome. Bethany, how about you?
So I started my first show was in the Sacramento Great American Stamp Show. So my brother Ian had been in the YPLF a few years ago, so I knew what to expect, like what it would be like. But I'd never been to GAS before, so that was a new experience. I was doing the author track, and I focused on postal history. So yeah, throughout my year there, I wrote 2 articles. I learned to research and write, and published 2 articles with the AP. So.
Excellent. Do you remember what issues they are?
The first article I don't remember. It was last year at some point, maybe August. The second one was February of this year.
Excellent. I'm just people are gonna want to go read it now that they hear about it. So
yeah,
I'm just gonna guide them in the right direction so they can look for your articles.
Yeah, I know for sure the second one was February.
What were they about before we go on to Silas?
So the first one was just an introduction to me, like how I got into stamp collecting, what I was planning on doing later on. And the second article, that one was I picked a topic and wrote an article about it. So what I did was I found a letter sent by a World War II soldier, and I researched this soldier. I got his whole genealogy figured out, and I wrote his story as the article.
That is super cool. Now I want to go back and see. The thing is, I read half the things that are in the AP, and I'm like, oh, I'll go back and read that later. I don't. This one I want to go back and read now. So Silas, what did you do during your YPLF year?
Well, this is the thing. I always have to explain this to people because they've never heard of this. I did analytical philately, which is it's like the scientific examination of postage stamps. So if you take color, people debate inks and color, and so in analytical philately, you apply methods from chemistry to see what are the inks made out of, like what are the different paper types, like what's the chemistry of that, what's the chemistry of gums. So I worked with my mentor, who was Richard Judge, and I did a spectroscopic examination of the 1923 hyperinflation overprints from Germany. So just seeing, kind of looking at the inks on the stamps, seeing, you know, what was going on, what the chemistry of those probably was, how different colors were made. And we wanted to look at the overprints, but kind of ran into a hitch there. So that was my project. So it was a lot of fun.
Hey, you know, everybody has to know what the hitch was. You can't just leave it there like
Oh,
that.
the ink used for the overprints was a there were several different types of black inks, and they're all carbon compounds. And the spectrometers Richard had, we couldn't quantify those, so that was the hitch.
Okay. So when you're doing that, like, I'm assuming, like, does the work on that like destroy the stamp, or does it?
No, we were using non-destructive methods.
Okay.
That was kind of one of the things we talked about, because I had no idea what I was doing. I still mostly don't with regard to spectroscopy, but you know, going in, I had a little bit an introduction to it in chemistry class in high school, and it there's many different methods, and some of them are destructive, but the ones we were using weren't. So
That would be the thing that I would worry about, is like if I want to like tell a very rare stamp from a very common stamp, I think one of the things would be the type of ink used. And I definitely don't want to ruin my very expensive stamp. So that's, see, I want to, every time you do this, like you want to learn more like that. This is why I'm in education. It all makes sense. Because I always want to learn more, like figure out more and do more. And the good thing with stamp collecting is there's always lots more to learn. So you each talked a little about like working with your mentors. I'd like to talk about that aspect a little bit. So how did your mentors support you, or what kind of work did they do? Those kinds of things. So Bethany, can I start with you this time?
Mhm. Yeah, for me, Cheryl Grants, she helped me to figure out like what angle I wanted to go at, like what's kind of stuff did I want to research to write about. And she got me connected with several like publications to just read their articles and see how various types of articles are written. And she showed me how to analyze articles and how they're written, like the voice, how it's researched, how they do the credits for buttons. I don't remember what it's called. It's like their sources, the list of sources, like how to do all that. So she pointed me in the right direction, and like gave me extra support as I needed it, but a lot of it I was like researching and learning on my own. She would just put me in the right direction, get me the resources I needed, and she really just encouraged me. Like she would read my rough drafts and like point out problems or tell me what things I was doing right. Like it was mostly just encouragement and support that she gave.
So I'm hearing a lot of like you got to drive like where you wanted to go, what you wanted to be working on, and she just like followed along with you to use her expertise and her resources to support that.
Yeah.
That, I mean, that is the definition of a good mentor. So I'd like to hear that. Trevor, how about you?
So I had Alex Hyman, of course, as my mentor, and he was really great. Kind of helped me walk through the process of everything I was doing, and he was always there, ready for me to bounce ideas around and kind of see what works and what doesn't work, and give an outside perspective on what I was up to, and give me good suggestions for things that needed to be done and keep me on track, make sure I wasn't procrastinating anything on the projects. So he was kind of really helpful in the whole process, and helped kept me on the way to the finish line.
And what was your project specifically again?
designing cachets and postcards.
So in those design, like, can you give me some examples of like what kinds of things he may have suggested to you in that process that helped you to grow a little bit?
Design spacing, fonts, using different fonts that are easier to use or more eye-catching depending on what's necessary, and then color palette suggestions, so things that kind of work better with each other than other things. So it's good to have that kind of expertise brought to the project and everything I was working on.
Thanks. I know not everybody is probably like really familiar with caches and things like that, so I thought diving in a little deeper into that one might be beneficial for everybody listening. Hopefully that was
It's a
helpful.
lot of moving parts.
You know, it seems so easy, just, you know, draw something. That's just not everything there is to it. Now, Silas, really interested in what your mentor did, since, you know, spectroscopy was not your bag before you started this.
Well, it was interesting. The way we started was, I met Richard Judge for the first time at Gas in Sacramento, and we just kind of started immediately talking about the project. He's like, you know, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know. So, you know, I figured out that I wanted to do a project with spectroscopy. And then it was kind of like, well, you need to figure out what stamps you want to analyze. I was like, well, there's the overprints from Germany, and those are really common and they're really cheap and it's in my budget. So it's like, well, let's go with that. And then, you know, a lot of, you know, we started off with talking about, you know, defining the project, you know, what part of the stamp are we working on? And he was really helpful with, he was sending me research papers on different methods and analytical philately, different spectroscopy studies. He sent me a PDF of a book on printing inks from 1910s. That was really helpful. And, you know, when I got the stamps, I sent them to him in Wisconsin, and he ran the tests and then sent the graphs back to me. And, you know, I got to look at the data, and we got on the phone and talked about stuff and figured out what was going on in the spectra. And it was a lot of fun. And really, like, one of the things I took away from that whole process was the importance of doing research before starting, and, you know, defining what you're looking at or what problem you want to look for.
That sounds like a good advice for anybody who wants to go and get a PhD someday. Just saying. Having been through the doctoral process, it's a great place to start. Find your question. So through this process, obviously, like, your mentor, like, is a great support. I heard all three of you say how helpful your mentor was. Are there other people along the way that provided you support, whether like officially through the YPLF program or outside of it? And I'll let this one open because maybe you don't have something to share in that vein. So anybody who wants to share that.
Yeah, I'll go first on that one. Kendall Bevel, longtime cachet maker in the hobby. He's done a lot of really amazing work, and I always enjoy seeing it on display when people have incorporated his cachets into their exhibits at the stamp shows. And so he's also in Texas like me, and I have enjoyed staying in touch with him for several years, and hearing what he recommends. And he got into the really specific stuff for me, such as the best paper for envelopes to use for cachet making, and the best printing methods, and just kind of everything that revolves around the very specific business of doing the cachets and getting them onto the covers. And that was really great.
Silas, I know you were going to say something.
Yeah, one of the things that I discovered I could take advantage of during the project was being able to use the American Philatelic Research Library, which of course, I'd heard of it being an APS member, but I'd never used it, and it was really helpful because I was able to get a lot of background information on the stamps I was researching. So
It's 2 doors away from me as I sit in my office. It's amazing. If you haven't been here, you need to come see it. It's most awesome library. Bethany, I'll give you a chance. Do you have anything you want to say as regards to other kinds of support?
Yeah. In summer seminar of 2023, I met Dan Piazza and from the Postal History Museum and the Smithsonian, and he helped me a lot. Like I took his class in summer seminar about research and like finding firsthand documents and stuff. And he was so helpful and did a lot of he helped me a lot with my genealogical research.
I think that's one of the things we don't always take advantage of so much in the APS is we are like this huge wealth of knowledge. Like each of us have our own areas that we can share with one another. It's just how do you get connected? So the YPLF program kind of helps make those connections. And as the education director, I am looking at more ways to help make those connections for everybody. A little hint of what's to come, if I can. We will be doing that in a virtual type of space, hopefully within the next year. So everybody can have those experiences where they find those people and connect with them and use their knowledge and experience to really, enhance what they know about philately. So it's not just our YPLFs. All right. This is a big open-ended question because you have to get the story behind the story. So I always want to know, what is your most memorable part of being a YPLF? Because this could be like the funny thing that happened at gas, or it could be the day that everything fell apart. It could be the day we find out, hey, we're not going to Westpex because the world is closing. But curious, like, what is a memorable moment for you from being in YPLF? Again, I'll leave this one open because it could be anything.
I guess I can go. Um, I guess one of the more memorable things was going to summer seminar, and I think I was told, go around the classes, see, kind of explore and see what's going on. So I went to class. It was the Changing Shape of the Mail with Robert Dalton Harris and Diane DeBlois, and I ended up staying in there the whole week because it was just so interesting. You know, that was a really good experience, but I was kind of given a hard time about, you were supposed to go around to the other class. But I had a good time and it was fun. So
When you find something you're interested and passionate about, you just got to go for it.
All right, mine was meeting Warren Buffett. So the Stamp Show 2019 was held in Omaha, which happens to be where Warren Buffett lives. And one of our other former YPLF fellows, Ian Hunter, who is Bethany's awesome brother, sent a letter to Warren Buffett inviting him to come to the Stamp Show. And either him, I hope it was him, maybe it was one of his staff, but somebody opened the letter and he came to the Stamp Show. And at first, I was expecting him to be riding around like the president, 10 black Suburbans or something, and a bunch of bodyguards. But no, he had, one or two assistants with him, walked in, just casual stamp collector Warren Buffett, and came over to the YPLF booth, stepped into the booth, and just talking about stamps with us and looking at them and everything. So that was really memorable. And then also in Omaha, we had quite a few train caches. So that was the year that the Golden Spike 150th anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad stamps were issued, and they had the big boy train on display there in Omaha because it's the home of the Union Pacific Railroad. And that was just a couple blocks from the convention center where the show was being held. And so us YPLF fellows went over there with a box of train cachet envelopes and started selling them to the public. And so there's a difference between selling stuff at stamp shows and selling stuff to the public. And that's that at stamp shows, you've got stamp collectors and they know what they want. You can say, would you like to buy a cachet with a train on it? And they will either know if that's something they want or they don't. The thing with the general public is they don't know if they want it or not. And so we had to go out there and sell the idea of purchasing a little envelope. And these didn't have stamps or postmarks on them. They were just envelopes with a little picture of the Big Boy locomotive printed on there. And we were walking around asking people to buy them. And we ended up actually selling quite a few. I was pleasantly surprised by how successful we were out there. But it was very different than hanging out in the YPLF booth and selling things to people who are already familiar with what they like and what they don't.
I just like the enthusiasm and drive to like get out there and try something different too.
It was also hot. We were all wearing suits and it was like 90 degrees out. So it was quite an experience, but we had a great time and we learned a lot.
I mean, it sounds like a good memory for sure. Bethany, can you top that one? Do you have a story?
Not specific story, but I really enjoyed the train museum in Sacramento. That was really cool. And just all the extra things that we did as the YPLF, like going out to dinner, walking through a garden, like all these things that we did on our free time. And like in Cleveland, we went to Insomnia Cookies late at night after a banquet when we had all eaten too much. So that was fun. I really enjoyed just getting to know everybody.
Well, and that's kind of the part of collecting too, is that so much of us are like it's a solitary activity. We do it in this like vacuum and bubble just for us, and we find out that there are all these other like amazing, wonderful people out there that do the same thing, and we're all really easy to talk to because we all have this common bond of like the things that we like to do. But I might have to remember. I might have to look for an Insomnia Cookies when we go to Hartford.
And like you said, everyone doing kind of the same thing. That's one of the best things I think about the awards banquet that happens at the end of every Great American Stamp Show. So obviously everybody, it's pretty competitive. Everybody wants to win, but when we all come together in the awards banquet, it's great to be able to look around and celebrate what everybody else is doing and be able to enjoy in their success with them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I was telling them before everybody got here, despite being a collector for years, I've never been to a stamp show of any sort, much less the Great American Stamp Show. So I'm excited to go and see what it's all about. And I'm in charge of lots of things. So I get it, two bits of excitement from different sides of things. So, and I know Trevor will be there as well as we'll have 4 current YPLFs. 2 who are graduating and 2 who are up and coming, because we always send them to the Great American Stamp Show when they first enter, and then basically at graduation from the program or at completion of the program, they come to the second show and present. And they have a whole YPLF booth like they were talking about. Since we're talking about the Great American Stamp Show, do you have any other things to share about your experiences being there? Had you ever been before being a YPLF, anything like that?
For me, it was just, I had never been to Great American Stamp Show, but I'd been to Chicago PEC several times. The biggest difference is how huge the Great American Stamp Show is. Like, it was like 2 or 3 times the size of Chicago PEC's. And at first, like the first couple of days, it was pretty overwhelming, but as I like got to know everybody better and could walk around and see the show booth, like talk to dealers and everything, I quickly acclimated, got used to the noise and the crowds, and it was really fun. I think my favorite part of it was the stamp dedication ceremonies. That was really good.
I must say, for no particular reason whatsoever, I am really looking forward to the pinback buttons that are coming out. And their first day ceremony is at the Hartford show. So I think they're a cool idea for a stamp, and I'm a US collector. So I'm excited to see what that's going to be like, because I've also never been to a first day ceremony either. So I'm excited to learn all sorts of things.
And to add to that, one of the things I like a lot about the first day ceremonies that they do at the Great American Stamp Show is how the show organizers manage to take the theme of the stamps and carry it across to the show as a whole and kind of just tie everything up really nicely. And I think my favorite example of that was in Sacramento. They were dedicating the very awesome pony cars stamps. And so they had these great vintage pony cars on display right there in the exhibit hall. And there was even a really old vintage mail truck too, which was awesome to get to see in person.
I think I saw pictures of that we have in our files here. It looked really cool. Same with when they did the dragon stamps came out, they built an entire castle. Again, it looked amazing. Silas, any stories from you for the Great American Stamp Show, or had you been before?
I had not been to a national stamp show like that. Echoing what Bethany said, it is overwhelming the first time, like going in, it's like, wow, it's a lot of people here. And even like, one of the things I like to do at stamp shows is walk through the exhibits, and even trying to look at the exhibits is overwhelming because there's so many. But it's really cool just to see um there's all sorts of stuff going on there. The exhibits, like, you see things there that you don't see anywhere else. Um, and being able to meet people that you like read their articles or heard of them before, but being able to meet people in person and connect is really cool. So.
Yeah, I had also never been to a national stamp show before the Great American Stamp Show, but I'm from Houston. And so I attended the Greater Houston area stamp show every year, and I thought it was big. And then I got to the Great American Stamp Show, and walking into the big exhibit halls and seeing everything was just a totally different experience. I think my favorite part of the shows personally was our breakfast meetings. So every day of the show, before we get started with everything else that needs to be done and running the booth and the first day ceremonies and attending meetings and all that, we sit down and eat breakfast together as a YPLF group. And we have our director of education there too. And then we invite one or two guests to come eat with us. And my two favorite guests that we've had over the years of doing this are Scott English and Dan Piazza. So Scott English is a very busy guy. And so to get to sit down with him and have some time to just talk is really cool. He has a lot of great stories to tell, and he's very enthusiastic about the hobby. And then Dan Piazza, the curator from the National Postal Museum, has also a lot of great stories to share. And the National Postal Museum only has so much real estate. So they only have so much space that they can put things on display. And so getting to talk to him opens up the door to what else they have that isn't on display at the moment that they hope to share with the public later. So just the time to sit down, the calm before the storm, and enjoy breakfast together before getting up and getting going for the day was really neat.
Yeah, and it's that idea that you can sit down with other philatelists, because there might not be somebody next door in your family that still collects, but here are all these people coming together who share that interest. It's amazing. All right, so we did have a question that came in earlier. We've had a few, and I've been holding off on them. One of them is, what are you excited about doing, or what are you planning on doing to further your philatelic learning or experiences? So what have you thought about, or what are your next steps, I guess, is what this person is asking.
Okay. Next step, we're looking forward to the stamp show. I think stamp dedication ceremonies, I'm looking forward to a lot. I like the first day ceremonies are really cool because I like how the USPS lines up some people who are relevant to the topic on the stamps to kind of speak about that, which is always exciting. And I'm also kind of looking forward to being retired a little bit this year. Instead of, I don't have to work the booth all the time. I could go read every single exhibit and not have to worry about missing other things I'm committed to. So I'll still help out if you need me, and I'll do some volunteering while I'm there. But I'll also be able to do everything else that I want to.
Just so you know, everybody that's here is a witness. He agreed to help me and volunteer. Just want to point that out.
You'll have to find him first.
I'll just look at all the cachet makers booths. I'll find him.
I'll be there somewhere.
So what are you planning on doing with cachets and postmarks? So you talked about the fact that, you know, you wanted to kind of do postmarks still and hadn't done that. So do you have any like official or unofficial plans in your mind about how you want to do that?
Kind of. So I'd like to design some postmarks for fun holidays that are kind of out there. So I know we've got World Postcard Day is coming up on October 1st, which is really exciting. And so I'm hoping to get a neat little special pictorial postmark design, and hopefully my post office officials locally in College Station will sponsor it and say, yes, we're willing to take all the hundreds of requests from across the country and add this postmark on there for you guys. And that way we can celebrate World Postcard Day, because I like postcards and I like stamps and I like postmarks. So all three of those things kind of fit together really nicely.
You need to connect with headquarters here, because if you haven't seen, we keep doing Stamp of the Week, and Stamp of the Week is
awesome.
often related to something, a holiday that's maybe not typical. So we did bicycles for, I believe it's National Bike Day, and National Cat Day is coming up, and we're doing one on that. So you should connect with some of those interesting holidays as well. And maybe we could feature something on the Stamp of the Week that we could slide you in there too.
Let's do it.
Silas, how about you? What are you looking for next? What's the next philatelic step for you?
Well, I've kind of been I've been working on my collection of, radio postal history stuff. But kind of in the analytical philately genre. It's there's some ideas I have for some future projects that I'm working on research for. And I'm also looking forward to, going off to university this fall and have potentially having access to more resources there with instrumentation and things like that.
You definitely will have more resources at any university.
Yep.
They're well equipped. Bethany, how about you? What are next steps for you when it comes to philately?
Right now, I haven't had much time to focus on stamps of any kind. Like, really busy with like just life in general. But what I would like to just find more covers and letters, just read a bunch of letters, get some ideas for more genealogical articles to write, because I really enjoyed that. And it really paints history in a new light for me, like being able to read how those people actually lived instead of just like how the politics were at the time that you read about in history books. I like to see how people actually lived, and so yeah, I'd like to just accumulate more letters, research more. Yeah.
Stories are powerful, voices are powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons I wanted to do this as well, is because your voices are powerful, to share these stories that only you have. But I know Susanna would be very happy to have you write more articles for the American Philatelist and for Stamp Ed now. So
yeah,
she'll reach out to you, I'm sure. All right, I had a couple of specific questions. So Silas, somebody asked, are you looking to continue with analytic philately, such as working with the Institute of Analytical Philately?
I had not thought about working with them specific yet. I guess I've also been finishing up high school this year, kind of been busy. Um, but I have ideas floating around in my head of projects, so it is, maybe that's a good idea. I think, maybe I will consider that, but I am intending to continue with analytical philately. Just it's just interesting. I guess I got the bug, so.
It sticks with you. Bethany, I can say myself, when I I graduated, went off to college, there was a time where I paused my collection as well, but it never gets out of your head. It's always
Yeah.
there. So even if you don't have time for it, you're like, when I do have time, it comes back. And I got my job and I was like, oh, look, and now I have money. So not only do I now I have more time, I also have money. This is exciting. That's to look forward to. So I have a follow-up. I'm just going to stick with you for a little bit because somebody's like, hey, there's all that equipment behind you. What is all of that? I asked him the same question when we started before everybody got here. So Silas, tell us, what do you have behind you?
Well, this is my other hobby, which is electronics and amateur radio. So there's a Tektronix oscilloscope, there's a curve tracer, some power supplies, bridges, meters, frequency generators, all sorts of stuff for working on electronics. And I guess that it also ties in with stamps because, one of my ideas for a um, analytical philately project would be measuring electrical characteristics of stamps. Now, I don't know if there's how much potential there is in that. No pun intended. But I will see. That's kind of some of the research I'm working on. So it's just an idea. So
And I will say David Snyder, who is here, said that he works with shortwave radio and has many QSI cards from broadcasters from when he was younger. I'm not sure what a QSI card is, but Silas, you might have a clue. But he was just sharing with you that sounds like he has some common interests, not just stamps, but also electronics with you.
That's cool.
QSL, sorry, my bad. Thank you.
Yeah, QSL.
He corrected in the Q&A. Thank you so much, David. Bethany, I have a question for you here. It's along the lines of what I started with Silas. Are you considering any work with the Military Postal History, like Military Postal History Society?
Yes, I was recently voted and selected as their youth liaison. It's a new board position where, as I understand it, which I'm pretty sure I do, I'll basically be their consultant for like how to reach the youth, the younger stamp generation, like how, like on social media, where can they get an online presence to reach the younger generation, and just how we think and how we would be interested in military postal history.
I do have to say we got that notification, and we actually like that they used the information for this chat to make that announcement. So I was very excited to see that. Congratulations on the new position.
Thank you.
Kind of two last questions to sort of wrap things up. Everybody wants to know what are you doing now in your life? So a lot of you talked about, oh, I graduated high school, or I'm going to go to college. So tell us what those big life plans are going on for you right now. Trevor, I'll start with you because I know you're like even abroad right now. So
yeah. So what am I doing now? I am about to start my second year of grad school at Texas A&M. I'm in a master's program for public service administration at the Bush School of Government and Public Service at Texas A&M. So that's kind of it's similar to an MBA, but for nonprofit organizations and the bureaucracy, helping oversee and manage government organizations and nonprofit organizations and things like that. So it's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it, and Texas A&M is a great place to be. In addition to that, I love to travel, so I do travel a little bit. I mentioned earlier, I'm in Albania at the moment, just visiting before I go over to Greece for my study abroad program that's through Texas A&M. So I'll be over there exploring a little bit. And right now I'm just kind of on the sleep off the jet lag and explore a little bit before the real business gets started. Last summer, I went out to Nauru to visit because I wanted to mail some postcards there. And I heard that it was the least visited country in the world. They only get about 100 tourists every year. And so I figured that was a great place to go check things out. So in the process of that, I learned a lot about their stamp program and their post offices and everything. So it is on the to-do list to write something about it and publish it somewhere. But it's going to happen at some point. But school keeps me pretty busy. So that's that.
Excellent. So Silas, what are you up to in life right now?
Well, I graduated from high school this year, which is a good thing. And last month I was in San Jose for an internship. And now I'm getting ready to go off to college in August. I'll be going to Missouri University of Science and Technology and studying electrical engineering. So looking forward to that.
And I know none of us are surprised based on your background,
Yeah.
images there, that electrical engineering might be a passion of yours.
A little bit.
Just a bit. Bethany, how about you? What is life bringing besides being a board liaison there?
Yeah, right now I'm getting ready to go into my sophomore year at Highland Community College. I'm getting a degree in history and in teaching. So right now I'm looking at since this community college only offers up to a associate's degree. I'm looking at other colleges where I can transfer to get my bachelor's, and just considering taking a gap year, going abroad somewhere. I've been seeing a bunch of different programs, like internships and stuff. And I'm also just starting to teach myself graphic design outside of college, just really interesting things. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Maybe we'll make a cachet maker out of you as well.
Yeah.
My last question is, what would your advice be to somebody who is watching this and they want to be a YPLF? What would your advice be to them to be successful in the program, or your best advice to a young stamp collector who's maybe just starting out?
I would say ask a lot of questions and talk to everyone. The world of stamp collecting is a wonderful place because everybody's excited to tell you what they're interested in. And so you can ask people questions about what they collect and what they've learned through their research. And they're all very willing to take the time to tell you about it, talk about what they're interested in. And that's a great way to do things because you also get to meet a lot more people. And although there are a lot of stamp collectors out there, it's a small world. So I run into people that I see once a year at the Great American Stamp Show, and we just pick right back up talking from the last time. So it's a great place to be. Talk to everyone and ask questions.
Bethany, what's your best advice?
Don't overthink. Just take it easy and enjoy your time in the YPLF.
I like that. Silas?
I guess I would say something for people who are just starting. Getting into stamp collecting it can be overwhelming, I guess. Everyone has, it seems like everyone has a specialty, and everyone likes to talk about what they're interested in naturally. But you know, if you're getting started, just collect what you like. Like that's the fun part of about stamp collecting. And there's no right way to do it. And I guess with YPLF, um, just it's a great experience. Like take advantage of the opportunities that come along with it and the people you can meet. That's a really great thing.
I think all of those were some great advice. We are actually at an hour, believe it or not. I feel like that just flew right by. I want to thank Trevor, Bethany, Silas. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your stories with us and your thoughts, because we're all interested in what our young philatelists have to say, because you are the future of what we're doing. As an educator, I'm always looking to young people to carry on things that I love and enjoy. So this will be posted on our YouTube page for anybody who maybe came late or missed it. And we will be having the Great American Stamp Show August 15th through 18th in Hartford, Connecticut. You can see Trevor there. You can see me there. Stop by the YPLF booth, buy some covers. Stop by the youth booth, say hi to me. And if you have any questions or whatever, you can reach out to me. My email address is sean@stamps.org. That's SHAUN@stamps.org. And just finally, thank you so much for joining us. Again, thank you to our former YPLFs. Really appreciate you being here. And we will catch you on the next Stamp Chat. Thanks so much.